Rockwood Board of Education meeting. We would like to thank the administrative team and all staff and students at Crestview Middle School for being gracious hosts for our meeting this evening. Thank you also to the ambassadors who are here from schools in the Marquette Quadrant to assist with greeting and signing in our guests. The purpose of this meeting is to conduct the business of the district, hear reports about our progress, and listen to the community on important issues. The Rockwood Board of Education is committed to the safety and security of all of our students, staff, parents, and patrons. To that end, we are requiring face coverings and social distancing at our meeting tonight. Your cooperation is appreciated in advance. We have reports to consider and business to conduct that are critical to the functioning of our school district. We want to remind all of our visitors that we expect the audience to remain civil and respectful at all times as the board conducts its business. Calling out verbal aggressiveness, inappropriate language, or name calling is not acceptable. If the meeting becomes unruly, the board may take a recess until such time the audience is appropriate. If inappropriate behavior continues by individuals, they may be asked to leave the meeting. If the audience becomes so inappropriate in their behavior that we can't conduct our business, the board reserves the right to adjourn the meeting. This Board of Education meeting is live streamed for the community's convenience. Opinions expressed at the meeting are not necessarily the opinions of the Rockwood School District. YouTube reserves the right to monitor and block inaccurate and misleading content. That process is beyond the control of the Rockwood School District. We want everyone to have the ability to hear the business of the district, reports presented, and the comments of everyone who is here to speak. We appreciate your cooperation and that you took the time to attend tonight's meeting. Could I please have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move. Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And that passes. Could I have a motion to approve Board of Education meeting minutes for October 7th, 2021?
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone?
Abstain.
2 abstentions. Anyone opposed? And that passes. Next, we have patron comments. I will read another statement. During patron comments, citizens may address the Board of Education concerning issues related to the school district. This Board of Education meeting is live streamed for the community's convenience. Opinions expressed at the meeting are not necessarily the opinions of the Rockwood School District. YouTube reserves the right to monitor and block inaccurate and misleading content which happened following one of our meetings. That process is beyond the control of the Rockwood School District. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Combining time or giving your time to someone else to speak is not allowed. Only one speaker is allowed at the podium at a time, and when your time is up, your time is up. Please note that at the board's discretion, the board or superintendent may respond immediately to an issue raised during patron comments for clarification. However, our general practice is to respond to the comment at a later time via a phone call or written message if a response is needed. We have a stand with microphones ready so both the board and the audience may hear the patron comments clearly. As a reminder, masks are required in our buildings and should remain on even when you are speaking. The board appreciates that you have taken the time to come this evening, and we value both your input and your perspective. Once your remarks are over, please return to your seat. I would like to remind everyone once again that we expect that you will remain civil and respectful in your remarks, and if anyone becomes disruptive, we reserve the right to cut those 3 minutes short. Verbally aggressive language and vulgarity in any form is not acceptable, whether you're reading someone else's remarks or they are your own. It will not be tolerated. For your convenience, our 3-minute time clock is ready.
Our first speaker this evening is Kelly Lloyd with Kevin Lloyd after that.
Good evening. For 12 years, my kids all attended private school. A few years ago, we took the leap and switched to Rockwood. I have 4 kids, but I want to talk to you tonight about my oldest because she's the one that I think you guys really need to zero in on. When we moved to Rockwood, my daughter was your teacher's dream student. Our first year was amazing, and then COVID hit. I cannot tell you how excited we were come November 2020. The day when she was finally able to walk through those school doors again, the day she returned to school, she had a smile that couldn't be hidden. She was so happy. She didn't care that she had to wear a mask. She didn't care that she was going to have to stand 6 feet apart from her friends. She didn't care that she was going to be assigned seats in each class and at lunch. She didn't care that there would be less interaction at school than what she was used to. All of these things that she didn't care about quickly were becoming into her biggest nightmare. She went from straight A student that was taking AP classes to now getting B's and C's. And while I'm not knocking B's and C's, for my daughter, that was a failure. She's a perfectionist. In January, she started to see a counselor weekly. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, adolescent counselors are overwhelmed. I couldn't get in with any provider after school hours. So yes, I now have to pull her out of class weekly to attend therapy sessions over her anxiety. This current school year, she's had to drop her AP government class and replace it with study hall. You see the masks that you're enforced against these children, they've caused so much more damage than you'll ever know. My fun-loving daughter who loved school and was excited to learn each day was gone. In fact, it became almost excruciating for her to have to sit through the whole school day. She started having major anxiety and full-blown panic attacks. Her panic attacks have become more often and more severe. So severe that several times your nurse has actually had to come assist her with a wheelchair to leave her classroom. Her panic attacks are so real that my daughter doesn't think she can breathe. She feels that she's going to die. Her anxiety has increased tenfold since returning to school last November with all of your unnecessary extra COVID precautions. The only hope we had left at saving her was by trying an anti-anxiety medication. For those of you that aren't familiar with anti-anxiety medication, they're also known as antidepressants. Let me say that again. I now have to give my 16-year-old daughter an antidepressant in hopes that she can make it through the school day. This is where we're at now. Sorry. I'm not asking for you to stop worrying about COVID. I am asking that you prioritize what these students need. For the sake of our children, let there be mask choice. I would never ask you to ban them. There are many that like them and would prefer to wear them. I am asking for there to be some freedom, so those of us that are suffering from them have a bit of relief and maybe hopefully a better outcome. If the kids were so resilient, the American Academy of Pediatrics wouldn't have to declare a national emergency in children's mental health.
Next speaker, Kevin Lloyd, and after that, Sarah Barnard.
All right, thank you very much, and great job, Cal. Yeah, I don't know if your point got across or not, though. It's unfortunate, but thanks for reading that. So what was it, 2 meetings ago, I remember someone up here was talking about bullying and everything, and you were voting on something, and not a single one of you, I'm ashamed of you for not even asking a question. And so I raised my hand in the back, and not knowing these meetings that we can't talk, I really wanted to ask the question of saying, hey, do you think forcing children, adults, forcing children to do something that they shouldn't do, but also don't want to do, is that considered bullying? Which I never got an answer or an email or response to that question anyways, but I'm asking you, don't you think you forcing a child to put a covering on their face to hide their face is bullying? Isn't this anti-bullying month, October? I think it is, I might be wrong. But then sitting back, missing last meeting, I heard that Mr. Ricker, you felt that it was necessary to give the FBI's telephone number, which I don't understand that. In your position, aren't you supposed to be on the parent side and be neutral? But you just called out every single person that was speaking out against masks or critical race theory or what have you, because you felt it was necessary to do that. It wasn't necessary. Everybody heard President Biden say that parents that speak out against the school system are domestic terrorists, which I don't agree with. I believe I know what's better for my kid than any of you. And forcing them to do something that they don't want to do and that restricts breathing, which gives you headaches throughout the day. I've had to wear one of these things all day long, and I get a headache, and it's hard to concentrate. It's hard to focus. Can you imagine these kids sitting in a classroom trying to focus Also, it's extremely difficult to understand anybody talking with these things. So I'm not shocked to see that your guys' standardized testing scores drop. And I'm not going to be surprised next year when they drop even lower. And I wouldn't be shocked to see that enrollment drops, because you're forcing kids to do things that they don't want to do. It's difficult enough to be a teenager with all of your body changes, let alone for you to have to listen to everybody police these masks. We have 4 security guards in here whose job solely is to make sure that all of us keep our masks up. That's really a good choice of our resources. Thank you.
Next person is Sarah Bernard, and after that, Teresa Thompson.
Hello, my name is Sarah Barnard. I have 5 kids in this district. I have never done this before, and that just shows how much what's happening here has called me to action today. I have had many good experiences with teachers and principals in this district. There's many wonderful things happening here. However, the behavior of this school board and administration is what is disturbing me the most. I was always taught to have the utmost respect for those in education, and typically that respect has been returned. I can't understand why you've chosen to drive a wedge in this district by setting up a tip hotline. The comments made at the last board meeting were upsetting. It seems as if you are creating an us versus them environment. When the superintendent started, he said he wanted this district to heal and unify. I feel like the actions lately are going to have the opposite effect. It will just cause more unrest and division. Throughout the years of having children in school, many educators have discussed the need for parents to partner with them so that we can provide a beneficial learning experience, and I've been more than willing to do that. A teacher recently told me, "Thank you for sharing your son with me." I feel like that is the type of attitude that this administration should be aiming for. Instead, somehow we find ourselves at a place where parents are being viewed as an enemy, and I'm stunned. Many parents in this district are very ready to work with those here, but we need the administration to take the first step. I'm also very concerned by the focus that I've seen happening recently in this district. It seems like much time and attention is being devoted to pushing ideologies and agendas. Schools are not places to teach what kids think, but instead they're places to be taught how to think. It is a parent's job to work with their children in various ideologies. A recent survey in this district showed that only 66% of parents believe the district is going in the right direction. This was the lowest percentage recorded since they started doing the survey. I believe this is a warning flag, and we all should be aware right now and make academics the sole focus again. Ask any parent in this district why they move here and why they live here, and it's because of high academic standards. I'd also like to ask that the district move to a mask optional setting. Other schools are doing this, including Mizzou, and they have 30,000 students. Experts recommend mask use during times of high transmission, and we're not in that situation right now. I find it odd that this school board has never been allowed to vote on this issue either. Districts across the whole state are voting, but for some reason you don't. I feel like many decisions surrounding COVID right now are made out of fear, and they're not based on data. I would like that to change. There's not a mandate in our county, and very few places in Missouri have that. That's why I think it is odd that our kids are still wearing a mask when they're not at risk. That is all. Thank you.
Next speaker is Teresa Thompson, and after that, Janet Diedrich.
I didn't prepare anything because this was a last-minute decision. I want to know what data you're looking at that my child has to wear a mask every day. And do you know, is she wearing it? Because let me tell you, I got an email from the nurse stating that my child was close contact, but didn't have to quarantine because she had a mask on. She came home from school. I said, "Oh, what happened?" Well, during flex time, which is 90 minutes, 2 times a week for high schoolers, they door-dashed food, ate it family style, and shared a drink. So clearly you don't know where my child is or whether her mask is on or not. I asked her, do you have class with this person who tested positive? Yeah. Do you sit by her? No. Do you know where my kid is? Do you know if her mask is on? We have what, roughly 6,000 high schoolers? 2 times a week for 90 minutes? You don't know where they are. You don't know if their mask is on. You don't know who they're with. What is the point of the mask? What is the point? Government funds you're getting from the federal government? Because clearly you don't know where the kids are and whether the mask is on or off. Why are we doing this? Second, my child is in marching band. We had a competition out of town. One of the students came walking by in full uniform. I said, why aren't you with the band? Oh, I was notified yesterday on day 10 of my 11-day quarantine that I was close contact. Day 10 of an 11-day quarantine, school finally caught up with her. Once again, why? We clearly don't know where our students are or who they are with. Second, as the parent of a Black child in Rockwood, I am 100% opposed to CRT. Don't dumb it down for my kid. She's in your honors program. She's been accepted to college. 75% of her tuition will be paid with an academic scholarship that she worked for. She doesn't need you to dumb it down for her. Don't tell her she is oppressed. She is a leader in your school. She was just nominated to do the Every Mind Matters, the peer counseling for that training. So now you want to train my child who's oppressed to peer counsel other students with mental health issues that your decisions created. Why should she clean up your mess? You made this. Fix it. Rockwood needs to stop focusing on creating social justice warriors and start focusing on academics. At this point, reading, writing, science, math, we are mediocre at best. I will teach my child. You just focus on reading, writing, and math. Thank you.
Next speaker, Janet Dietrich, and after that, Kristen Eldridge.
Hello, this is our second year in Rockwood. We chose Rockwood on purpose when we left private school in order to find a mainstream special ed setting for our son. He is flourishing here under excellent teachers. We are very pleased. That's the good. Now for the ugly. I'm not sure if you board members are aware of this, and I'd like to give you the benefit of the doubt. So here's your chance to hear and to respond appropriately. After tonight, you will know, and all the citizens will know that you know. And we are watching and waiting. How many of us parents have placed parental controls on our children's electronic devices or checked out a movie before we let our kids watch it? Most of us, I bet. But then we send them to school where we think they are safe, only to find that they are freely offered books that most of us would consider pornography. But no, there's a new term in the youth book industry. The books you will hear about tonight are not considered pornography. It's a new name called child erotica. And yes, Rockwood is full of it. Child erotica, are we okay with that? Child erotica makes up the book collections of many child predators. They use them for self-satisfaction and for grooming their victims. These books are loaded with graphic descriptions of sex acts, rape, suicide, and dark, depressing lives where the characters have no hope ever. Why are these books here? Why are authority figures providing them to our kids? What are you people thinking? If you don't believe it, listen up. And sadly, this is the fairly mild stuff compared to what else is in the library. This is a book called This One Summer. It's a graphic novel, it's a comic book filled with foul language. In it, a young girl spends a summer learning about oral sex, teen pregnancy, and watches an X-rated movie with her friends. A Rockwood mom found this book, this library book, in her sixth grader's backpack. Next, Looking for Alaska. In this book, which is soaked in alcohol abuse, we have a girl learning how to give oral sex to a boy, and then we get to read how it went. These are condensed excerpts. I think I want to, she said, and we kissed a little, And then with me sitting watching the Brady Bunch, Laura unbuttoned my pants and pulled my boxers down and pulled out and then she wrapped her hand around it and put it in her mouth. Well, the girl didn't know what to do next, so they consulted Alaska, the boy's sex guru friend. Alaska demonstrated how to do it using a tube of toothpaste. The book continues. Laura and I went back to her room where she did exactly what Alaska told her to do, and I did exactly what Alaska said I would do, which was die 100 little ecstatic deaths. My fists clenched, my body shaking. It was my first orgasm with a girl. Both of these books are available in Rockwood Middle School libraries.
Next speaker is Christian Elridge, and after that, Amy Cribbs.
There's not a lot of topics that everyone in this room will agree on entirely, but in light of the recent Me Too movement, sexual violence against women, and awareness of rape culture, I think we can all agree that a novel with a graphic rape scene should not be so easily available to our children. Currently in the Eureka, Marquette, and Rockwood Summit libraries, a book titled Crank describes a torturous scene between two characters. It started with a kiss. Cranked rev, pistons firing full bore, passion firecracked in tiny bursts from thigh to belly button. Oh baby, I want you so bad. But bad to the bone. We laughed, but it wasn't a joke, not for long. My shirt tore open. Wait, I've waited for weeks. Put up and shut up. Kisses segued to bites, bruises. Pain rippled through my body. Brendan, please stop. No, you promised, you little tease. Off came my shorts, down went my zipper. I realized I was in serious trouble. I'll scream. Go ahead, no one can hear you. Still, as I opened my mouth, his hand slapped down over it. Those sublime muscles hardened. Just relax, you'll love it. My brand new Victoria's Secret shred, and I felt the worst of Brendan pause, savoring my tear. They all love it. Had he done it in a different way, I might have responded with excitement. Instead, I froze as he pushed inside. There it is. Oh God, there it goes. It went, all right, with an audible tear. Pain mushroomed into agony, and all I could do was go stiff. You weren't lying, you B-word. I lay there sobbing as he worked and sweated over me. Stoked by the monster, it took me a long time to finish. Give me a line, I'll give you an encore. He pulled away, sticky and bloody, throbbing inside, and I didn't move. Didn't dare look him in the eye. What the hell is the matter, Bree? I stared at the clouds gathering into gloom, shrouding the moon. My name is Christina. I would never want my two boys exposed to anything like this at school. And I would hope everyone can agree that a detailed rape scene is completely inappropriate for children of any age and does not help the cause of any domestic violence against women.
Next speaker, Amy Cribbs, and after that, Johanna Bodine.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to talk about pornography books being in our school libraries. The book I will be sharing with you tonight is titled Gender Queer by Maya Kobab. Gender Queer can be found in Lafayette, Rockwood, Summit, and Eureka High School libraries. Before I proceed forward, I would like to share that I will try my best to be respectful and keep it clean. However, you must know and understand what is in the school library shelves for our children to read. And let me add that the non-binary asexual identity is not the issue. I accept and love all God's children. It's the explicit pornography in this book that I am concerned about. Gender Queer is a book that explicitly illustrates minors how to give oral sex on one another using strap-on sex toys in cartoon format, along with many other graphic sexual positions and bodily functions. Here are some excerpts from the book. For years, my standard method of masturbation was stuffing a sock into the front of my pants and manipulating the bulge. Here's another. I got off once while driving just by rubbing the front of my jeans and imagining getting a BJ. And another. I got a new strap-on harness today. I can't wait to have your C-O-C-K in my mouth.
Ma'am,
I'll stop there.
thank you.
You get the point. Soliciting pornography to minors is a federal offense. As you may know, at the last board meeting, our superintendent encouraged our community to call the FBI on parents that have more conservative views. Exposing minors to pornography is a reason to call the FBI, not on a parent that has a different view than you. Our teachers are stressed out. They are on the front line dealing with the extra burden of radical ideologies around sexuality and many other political biased books and curriculum in their schools. Due to the school administration taking federal funds from the Biden administration, these non-academic indoctrinated materials are in our schools all across America. The psychological impact of children being exposed to pornography is neurologically overwhelming. The frontal cortex of the brain is the judgment critical thinking center and is not fully developed till our mid-20s. When you have a child that's not fully emotionally and physically developed, they do not have a framework of what's happening. It creates sexual appetites that are not their own. Exposing children to pornography leads to feelings of guilt, shame, and confusion around their sexuality, and oftentimes can lead to suicide. You cannot allow pornography to trespass into the lives of our children. It's disrupting their childhood and stealing their innocence. Now that myself and a few other brave parents have exposed what's in our school libraries, I hope Rockwood administration and the board take swift action to remove all the federally funded pornographic rape culture books from our school libraries. Many parents here tonight would be more than happy to donate our time and efforts in tagging and removing these books from our school libraries. Please protect our children. Thank you. And Jennifer will be handing out some information on the books we spoke about.
Next speaker, Johanna Bodine, and after that, Deb Michaels.
Parents are the #1 advocates for their children. In part, the Missouri School Board Association's response to the NSBA's letter calling parents domestic terrorists as follows. We were disappointed with the NSBA letter and have clearly expressed our disagreement to them in no uncertain terms. We absolutely and unequivocally believe in the First Amendment rights of parents and all citizens to speak freely and petition their governments. We appreciate the passion parents and others have for Missouri schools and the children we are serving. We encourage that passion and must create safe places for these voices to be heard. Dr. Ricker threatened parents last week after reading the NSBA letter. We demand an apology and a retraction. I've had several conversations with teachers and librarians since my children have been in school, and all agree with this statement. Parents know what is best for their children because no one knows their child like they do. In order to be the best advocates for our children, we need a school district that is transparent and encouraging to parents. We need a district whose words match their actions. I will give some examples of where these two things are incongruent. The head librarian and my child's librarian, principals and teachers state they want parents to know what their kids are reading so they can have conversations with them about it. We agree 100% on this point. However, the policies and practices of this district do not allow it. I've asked for and not received copies of book lists for 9th grade ELA. I've asked for and not received advance notification of what my children will be reading before it's assigned or comes home with them. I'm not interested in eliminating access to materials. I'm interested in participating in a knowledgeable way. We also all know that there are kids whose parents are not advocating for them. These are also the kids who are most susceptible to the inappropriate books and materials in our schools. It's triggering for children with severe anxiety and depression to read books about suicide without proper oversight from parents and medical professionals. It's irresponsible to believe that kids dealing with drugs and alcoholism or sex abuse are helped by books mirroring and sensationalizing these topics. They cannot be helpful without proactive communication. I implore you to institute policies that provide visibility to and proactive notice to parents of what is in the school library and the student lessons. The current policies are damaging to partnership between parents and schools, and most importantly, they're damaging to our children. Dr. Ricker and the school board need to retract your intimidating statements, or you should all resign.
Next speaker, Deb Michaels, after that, Elizabeth Cohen.
been hearing that parents have threatened Rockwood staff for a long time now. It's been all over the news, right? Headlines. Rockwood teachers face threats over equity curriculum. 2 Rockwood administrators of color say they have received death threats. Opponents of the district's new diversity and equity programs are posting threats of violence on social media. I was shocked. I have never seen any of that on social media anywhere. If I did, I would denounce it. You never told us specifically what happened though, or who did it. So we did records requests to find out with Eureka Police, County Police, the FBI, and Rockwood of every communication considered a threat by Rockwood. Hundreds of dollars in requests later, here's what we found in the records. No proof of death threats. If you have any proof, you should release it to taxpayers and parents. Otherwise, all of us suffer from the stigma. No physical threat, no threat of violence. Eureka Police gave us documentation that the 4 reports made to them by Rockwood last school year were all closed as unfounded. Rockwood's own communications director stated when talking to news media, she was careful not to characterize any of what went on as threats. So you have representatives of Rockwood claiming death threats and simultaneously saying no threats. Which is it? Because this alleged history of threats has led to where we are right now. The federal government says the FBI needs to help out because of harassment, intimidation, and threats from parents. Are you trying to silence those who disagree with your policies? I speak at board meetings respectfully about the need for transparency and the anti-police themes and inappropriate content of lesson materials. And I ended up in a TikTok video called "A Parent Who Harasses a Certain Rockwood Administrator." Here's the truth. A Rockwood administrator recently posted on Twitter about teacher stress. I replied, and it was put in the video. Dr. H, I truly believe if teachers were allowed to focus on academics, stress could be reduced. This new emphasis on social justice injects tension, heavy negative topics, and puts them in the position of having to navigate narratives that are polarizing and full of bias. That's harassment. Your continuous vague claims have basically declared open season on parents who disagree with you and given permission to overzealous parents who say they want different perspectives in lessons but use public shaming to silence different perspectives in the community. For months now, parents who want social justice lessons have harassed the parents who don't. They have doxed them online, posted their employers, called them racist, encouraged people to try to get them fired. They paid a TikTok personality to publicly shame these parents in multiple videos. At least one parent's employer was contacted. Because you keep alleging threats without specifics, you are dividing us and causing real, provable harassment against innocent people. Tell us specifics. Stop casting suspicion on everyone. And let's be clear, criticism of how public servants do their jobs is not a crime. Being against school policies is not a crime. If you want to call out parents, go after
Your
the
time is up. Thank you. Your time is up.
Next speaker, Elizabeth Cohn. After that, Linda Himmelman.
Our interim superintendent embracing the FBI as a threat against parents who are speaking out for the sake of their children was disturbing, to say the least. I'm embarrassed that Rockwood allowed this to happen. Meanwhile, districts across the country are ending their memberships with the NSBA over this insanity. Parents are allowed to express themselves to elected school board members. Given that countries around the world are exempting children from wearing masks in classrooms, parents are allowed to ask with passion in their voice why their own child must wear them in public schools. I hope this board does a much better job picking the new superintendent than they did picking the interim superintendent, whose clear disdain for the parents of the very students he was hired to serve has no place in the Rockwood School District. We are better than that. The following is from a column by John Cass entitled, "Parents Aren't Terrorists, Mr. President. They're Americans with something to say." We once welcomed Americans speaking their minds, even protesting, without dropping the federal hammer on them as if they were terrorists. The novel concept was called freedom of speech, the freedom to express your thoughts, to think out loud. It is one of the freedoms that people died for. Then we didn't have a White House that would send the Department of Justice and the FBI after a person for expressing an unpopular view, but we have that now. Then we didn't have a Patriot Act written to protect us from terrorists, but now used by the Biden DOJ to silence parents at school board meetings with the implied threat that they themselves might be domestic terrorists, as if parents who don't like what their kids are being taught in school are no different than Al-Qaeda. What are their crimes? They dare to object to racist curriculum of critical race theory, where kids are divided by the color of their skin to be treated differently, race by race. decades after many dreamed of equality of opportunity for all. That's gone now. Parents may be accused of another sin, objecting to their children being taught to loathe their nation and turn against them. Obviously, violence of any kind should not be tolerated. But these are local school boards, and the local law enforcement authorities should be involved, not the FBI with the power of the federal government to threaten people into silence. We are not terrorists, we are parents. All of this would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. A Virginia mom who was born and grew up in China was quoted as saying that all of this seems familiar. The communist regime used the same critical theories to divide people. The only difference is they used class instead of race. We were encouraged to report on each other. This is indeed America's version of the Chinese Cultural Revolution. Social media, which more and more seems like a technology built for inducing hysteria, hatred, and division, makes every problem appear as if it is a simple issue of identifying the bad guys and attacking them. A lesson human beings apparently need to learn over and over again through the disastrous real-world consequences of overzealousness is to be careful about believing too strongly in your own goodness, and beware of those who are only too willing to impose their goodness on everyone else. They are always more dangerous than they appear. Thank you.
Next speaker is Linda Himmelman. After that, Haley Rogers.
Good evening. I decided to come back because I realized I didn't finish my comments last time. And one of the comments I wanted to share had to do with emails that I sent to board members and administrators in Rockwood in the springtime. And all my emails were returned unopened. It just like they were bounced back. Well, initially I was like, well, because that was the first time I'd ever done anything like that. I went in and I thought, well, maybe I had the wrong address. I checked with people. No, I had the correct address. So then I've been asking around, and I've found that there's other representatives in the district had the same experience. That got me to thinking. I thought, well, if it's designed this way to kick back email so you don't have to read our comments by way of email, then I think, well, who are you accountable to? And I really have to wonder that. So, and another time, I went to a CRT meeting this summer in Rockwood, and they had place cards for all the board members. Not a board member was there. They were all invited. There were Senate people running for the Senate and legislation here in Missouri. And I thought, how come they're not showing up? You know, I mean, I was like, you know, in some ways, this is very new to me, because when I was teaching that many years ago, board members showed up. People took an interest. Again, I said, who are these people accountable to? So I guess I have to ask, do you feel accountable to your parents of the district and taxpayers? And I thought, if you don't, and you're accountable to the NEA, CDC, FDA, Chinese Communist Party, the globalists, then I think, are they paying you and we're not? So I want to find out from legislation, who pays you for your job? If it's not the residents and parents, I think we're the ones that have the authority, not these other agencies. None of these agencies have people that were ever elected for anything. They're appointed, and they're appointed to have an agenda. So I'm going to run out of time today, so I'm going to have to come back next time too. So I'll just say, I do plan to go to Jeff City and find out, how are these things happening? And it's not that I want to deprive anybody of their income, but you're depriving people and residents of peace of mind, truth, love, justice, a sense of well-being in our community, because these things are being taught to children that are destructive. And I guess in closing, I thought every one of us has a choice to make. We either choose life or we choose death. And that we choose death if we choose to lie, deceive, and cheat. You know what love looks like. I'm coming back.
Next speaker is Haley Rogers. After that, Jennifer Weston.
So I listened to the last Board of Education meeting, and do you know what I heard? Be kind.
but only if we think the same. Speak up, but only if it's for DEI, SEL, CRT, masking or vaccines, or any other similar agendas. Be like me as long as you believe what I believe. Don't listen to a small group. Their voices don't matter. Ironic for a crowd that seems to speak for minority groups and against stereotypes, as long as they're not white. Those who shared these conflicting statements ask for unity but sow division. They want tolerance but sure teach a lot of hate. And you know what? Those parents and parents like me will never see the same. But that shouldn't matter. That is not why we're sending our kids to school. We are sending our kids to school for academics. It's that simple. And hopefully that's something that we can agree on. Teach the academics. Remain appropriate, factual, and neutral. So teach math, real math. Teach science, not propaganda. Teach language arts and writing. Again, keep the content appropriate and neutral. If parents want to expose their kids to more controversial reviews and adult content, that can be a discussion that they have at home based on their family morals and to explore on their own time. Just as some would be uncomfortable with schools teaching about Jesus, others are uncomfortable with schools indoctrinating our children in this way. And you know what? Teach the history. No one's saying to leave any of it out. No, teach it, the good, the bad, the ugly. Just don't try to interject racism where it doesn't belong. Is there racism in history? You betcha. Is it as profound as some would like to suggest? Absolutely not. And if you were to teach and comprehend actual factual history, you would understand why so many parents are concerned, because we are knee-deep in repeating history and not in a good way. That brings me to my final point, Dr. Riker. We pose no threat of violence here. We don't fight like that, team. The only threat that we pose is our voices will be heard. You have poked the wrong bears. We are awake. We are done sitting on the sidelines while you brainwash, dumb down, and sexualize our children. While you may try to silence a couple of us through ridiculous means, seriously, the FBI, really? I can promise you, you may silence a few, but we'll be back in spades. You will hear from us. Thank you.
Next speaker is Jennifer Weston, and after that, Alan Loretta.
Good evening. Over the past few months, concerned parents across our country have been demonized for speaking at board meetings. Parents who question mask mandates and COVID vaccines are labeled anti-science. Parents who don't want elements of critical race theory in classroom lessons are labeled racist. Parents who want discussion on topics such as gender identity and sexuality to take place at home, not in the classroom, are labeled bigots. And our own government has labeled parents who speak out on anything that goes against their narrative as domestic terrorist. Our very own superintendent even read a letter from the Justice Department at the last board meeting and encouraged parents to report to the FBI. And if you don't believe that this demonization is really happening, take note of these examples. A police report was recently filed on a parent who didn't break any laws, mind you. The district then informed her that she cannot step foot on any school property other than the school her children attend. Coincidentally, this happened immediately following her speaking at a board meeting about how to file claims against this school district insurance company in the event that a child is harmed from mask wearing. In another example, the children of a private school family in the area were expelled after the parents asked for transparency over their mask policy. In another case, the pastor of a different local church and school questioned a mother's mental health after she questioned the school's mask policy. And as I've already been mentioned, Rockwood parents have been doxxed by fellow Rockwood parents for the crime of having a different point of view. This is real, this is happening, and this is wrong. Parents have a personal obligation and a mandate to educate their children to succeed to their highest potential. The school has an obligation to the children for education without harming their family's beliefs and moralities. The school's obligation is transitory. The parent's obligation transcends the educational stage to help implement their education. Whereas the school's obligation ends, it has no role in the most critical part. Parents are the responsible party, not the schools. What is the true underlying issue? The critical decision is ownership of responsibility. In this country, the government's existence is based on preserving the rights of its citizens. That would be parents having the mandate and responsibility for their own children. To the parents here in the audience and watching at home, they can demonize us, they can attack us, but they cannot take away the obligation we have to our children. Our children need us now more than ever. Fear is contagious, but so is courage. Be not afraid. Thank you.
Next speaker, Alan Loretta. After that, Jessica Reisenhuber.
Good evening. Certainly came on the wrong night tonight, I guess. You know, what I wanted to say for the most part is there are a lot of things that we need to continue to work on here. You've heard a lot of them today. When brought up in a context like this, they can sound they're sensational, they sound awful, and they sound like things that need to be looked at and need to be addressed. What I intended to talk about was I really appreciate everything that you guys are doing, particularly around, and this is going to come at a tough time because there's been a lot of what I would consider attacks on Dr. Richter at the moment, but particularly around the selection of the new superintendent. I like the fact that you guys are trying to listen to the community and hear all the voices in the community. I think if everybody listened to one another, we'd hear in many respects, we're saying very similar things, but with little twists at the end in most cases. We're much closer than we are far apart in many of these items. We can learn history. We need to learn history. I couldn't agree more with the individual who said, we need to learn all of history, the good, the bad, the ugly. The difference in the mindset that everybody's talking about is learning history is not indoctrination. I'm a white guy. I can learn about history and racism and the effects that it's had on our community and on our world and on the people inside it. I can feel disappointed by that, but I can do that without feeling bad about myself. I can talk to my kids about some of the things that they may find if they really struggle to find a book in the library. And having a high school age kid, he's not going into the library to look for too many books in the deep section very often. But I can talk to him about those items that are in those books so that he doesn't end up as that young man at Mizzou, unresponsive after going to a fraternity party. So that he doesn't end up in a position where he's not aware of what takes place in the world. Because we can't shelter our children from the world. We can try, and we can say, we're going to address it. The average American male youth first comes across porn at the age of 12. 12 years old. You cannot wait always to have these conversations because they're getting it outside of it, not from the schools, from their friends, from their other people along the way. What we need to continue to do, what I encourage you to do is continue to be transparent and talk and then have those discussions, because as we're having those discussions, we'll end up in a better spot at the end of the day. Thank you.
Our last speaker this evening is Jessica Reisenhuber.
So much. I'm sorry for all that you had to listen to this evening. So I actually can provide some context to everybody listening about some of what's been happening about the environment in Rockwood. So what happened at a board meeting, before the board meeting, was two concerned parents went up to students getting on the school bus after football practice and began verbally harassing them and telling them things like, and they're Black students, said, "Shut it, I don't care."
Excuse me.
If
No.
you're gonna harass me, you
No.
better be ready for it.
Ms. Michaels, no thank you. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Do we need to ask several people to leave this meeting right now? Can we be quiet and respectfully have the speaker speak?
I know. You guys
Excuse me.
did the whole freaking meeting. So that parent then went up to Black students and said, "Take off your mask, you're no longer slaves." So my understanding is I heard about it. None of us had any detail beyond that. So I waited to see what was gonna happen. We never got an email about that, and I complained about that at a board meeting. I even called the Chesterfield Police Department. What I found out is that it is not illegal to go and harass kids on school grounds. So the school did the only thing that they could do, which was to ban these two parents from school grounds because they had already harassed people's children. Come up to my kid and harass them and see what I do to you. Stay away from my kid. And that's how those other parents felt. And then those two parents have been posting that the kids are lying, that they're flying monkeys. So that's what the concerned parents have been doing to children. They have been harassing Dr. Harris.
Ms. Risenhoover, I'm going to stop you, and I'm also going to stop those of you who are shouting out from your seats.
Sorry, it's because
We
you
don't,
can't hear me.
we're not here to talk about specific cases.
Right.
I'm saddened tonight by a lot of the tone and conversation that's taken place
Yeah.
from the people who've stepped to the podium to use their time in this way. I'm just disappointed. That's all I can say. We can't continue. We cannot talk about, excuse me. We are not shouting out. We're going to take an adjournment right now. Recess.
The Character Ed National Forum is taking place in virtual format this weekend and tomorrow. Our own Werther Elementary will be recognized as one of the organization's 2021. I'm sorry, I apologize. 2021 National School of Character. Werther is one of 47 schools and one district nationally, in addition to a school each from Mexico and Brazil, to earn this distinction, which honors schools that demonstrate a focus on character development that has positively impacted academic achievement, student behavior, and school climate. Over the past 20 years, 20 of the Rockwood schools or programs have been named National Schools of Character. Werther makes it a priority to weave kindness and character education into every practice at the school, and its students are encouraged to take leadership roles in character initiatives. Congratulations to Werther students, staff, families, and the entire school community for your commitment to ensuring Werther remains a kind, caring place for students to learn. This week is National School Bus Safety Week, and in Rockwood, the safety of more than the 12,000 students that we transport to and from school on a daily basis is a top priority. That's why we are fortunate to have an award-winning Rockwood Transportation Department that includes a maintenance team that keeps our bus fleet in excellent condition, as well as a group of dedicated drivers who stay up to date on all the latest training to ensure that they are doing all that they can do to look after the safety of our students. This year's theme is School Bus Danger Zone Awareness, and our drivers have been performing front door evacuation drills with their elementary students at their schools and reviewing the procedures with their secondary students all during this week. We will hear more later on this in our agenda about the efforts of Transportation Department from Director Mike Heyman and Chief Financial Officer Paul Northington. Fairway Elementary Happy Feet Running Club is going strong this year again, with more than 100 third, fourth, and fifth graders participating. The club, which has been operating at the school for more than a decade, started as a recruitment tool for the school's cross-country team, but has since grown and evolved into a way for Fairway students to have fun, exercise, and socialize before school starts. It's not about how fast or how far the students run. It's about how much fun they're having doing it. You can catch members of the Happy Feet team, as well as other fourth, fifth, and fifth graders from around Rockwood in action at the District Elementary Cross Country Meet Saturday, starting at 8 a.m. here at Crestview. Each year, Rockwood recognizes support staff members, including bus drivers, nurses, secretaries, custodians, computer support personnel, classroom assistants, special school district teachers, and all the other Rockwood employees who serve our students and staff every day through our Cornerstone Awards program. Through the end of this week, students, staff, parents, and community members can submit a nomination for a deserving Rockwood support staff member on our website at rsdmo.org. Please consider joining us and recognize these important employees who represent a vital part of our district and help us let them know how much their contributions mean to everyone. And those are my comments this evening. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Ricker. Any board comments? All right, could I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted?
So move.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
We have 3 great donations tonight. They're up on the board there. First one's from Office Depot, and they have gathered $44,700 and have given that money, or will allow Baldwin Elementary to go to Office Depot and purchase products with that $44,700. It says Baldwin Elementary was chosen by Office Depot in which regional stores collected donations for the benefit of Baldwin Elementary. Staff and students will have the ability to shop for building needs at the local Office Depot store in November 2021. General items that could be purchased. Funds include classroom furniture, technology equipment, and school supplies. The second one is from the Center of Creative Learning, PTO, $15,000. Money to purchase teacher and student supplies for their classrooms. Items include library books, shelves, technology items, and student and teacher appreciation events throughout the year. And the last one is Utah Valley PTO, $23,815. PTO donations for the 2021-22 school year. Donations to support students and staff during the 2021/22 school year, field trips, online reading, subscription, student folders, etc. This is the 4th or 5th meeting in a row where we've had these tremendous donations from the PTOs. A lot of times the backbone of the schools that help the schools so much. And plus, it's a great donation from Office Depot. Thank you very much.
Thank you for reading those, Dr. Kinder. So the motion is to approve the consent agenda items as submitted. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And that passes. Next, could I have a motion to approve the Special School District Rockwood School District Partnership Agreement as presented?
So, second.
Motion and a second. We have Dr. Carmen Harris coming up, I believe, to join us, as well as some of her guests, Dr. Elizabeth Keenan, Dr. Yuval Asner, and Dr. Jamie Smith. Come on up.
Thank you, everybody. I'm Elizabeth Keenan. I am the superintendent for Special School District. This is my 3rd year, and I'm pleased to be able to present to you, and Carmen Harris, our Director of Special Ed for SSD, will be presenting the partnership agreement. Just wanted to talk a little bit about the agreement that we've had. Special School District has been in effect since 1957, and it's been a real special program to support students across the county. And we're so pleased to be able to have this strong partnership with Rockwood. And I'm glad to be here to be able to witness what we've been trying to do and how we continue to look at our programming and to be able to enhance our students' opportunities here in Rockwood. I would like to introduce one of our board members who is the liaison who is the board member who represents Rockwood, and it is Director Yuval Asner.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Yuval Asner. I'm the board member for Special School District representing the Rockwood School District and Ladue School Districts. Thank you for all the work you do.
With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Harris, who has been with us Rockwood and SSD for 22 years, and she is our very strong advocate for our students with special needs and has an amazing relationship here with Rockwood. So I'd like to turn it over to her to talk a little bit more about the partnership agreement.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. I'm going to go through just a little bit of our partnership agreement with you and share some additional information. The original educational partnership agreement was adopted in our September 2005. We've had 2 revisions of that agreement since it's been adopted. The tool this summer was reviewed, and so that's what I'm going to go over just a little bit more about today. Our tool was developed to ensure that special education directors and our partner district liaisons have an opportunity to collaborate in a mutual relationship to look at the responsibility and the collaboration and the goal achievement of the students we serve in our partner districts. The previous agreement was consisted of 10 specific categories. The new agreement is comprised of 7, so we'll go over that this evening. Feedback from our stakeholders, including partner district liaisons, directors of board members, partners of parents, school and district level leadership, and previous partnership agreement was reviewed and led to the committee to be formed in reviewing the current partnership agreement. The committee was composed of 42 specific members. Those members were district level individuals, as well as our partner district directors and liaisons. This particular committee was comprised of individuals who completed a survey, and that survey led us to reviewing specific components of that partnership agreement. What should be maintained? What should we remove? And what might be something to add to it? At the end of each of those meetings that we held this summer, our members were able to share additional information, and our subcommittees were able to come together and have additional work and share out that information as well. The summary of the committee work really looks at the 2 areas you see here of the current partnership agreement and the proposed partnership agreement that we are agreeing to this evening. Each committee reviewed the feedback provided via the survey. We merged categories to really intensify our focus, and we made revisions to each of those categories. You see the previous 10 and then the 7 that we have currently. Those 7, you can go right to the next one, are staffing, teaching, learning, and accountability, formerly known as professional development, collaboration of responsibilities and resources, student services, data and technology, transportation, and career technical education. Within this, we also have an assessment and an evaluation tool scaled on 0 to 3, 0 being not yet implemented, 1 being that there's an approach in place, 2 that it's fully implemented, and 3 that we have some positive outcomes that are associated with it. This particular evaluation tool we completed during our Rockwood Learning and Support Services Committee. We feel that that was the best location for us to have a variety of stakeholder voices as we evaluate both a baseline in the fall and then an end of year in the spring. Myself and Dr. Jamie Smith, as our Rockwood liaison, will be leading that committee through a discussion, and then we'll develop action steps as needed. Acknowledgement of both boards of SSD and Partner District will agree to the following. We endorse the vision, mission, and belief statements outlined in the Educational Partnership Agreement of St. Louis County. We support collaboration and shared responsibility in providing equitable and seamless implementation of services for every student. We understand that the Educational Partnership Agreement of St. Louis County will guide collaborative efforts to enable every child to achieve his or her full potential. And we commit to working cooperatively to implement the principles of the Educational Partnership Agreement of St. Louis County in the school district. The acknowledgement from both boards will be that we are presenting, which is this evening, with our special school district director as well as our partner district liaison. The partnership agreement will require the signatures of both the superintendents of special school district and partner district, and our SSD board president and partner district board president. What questions do you have?
Carmen, even though you went from 10 categories down to 7, you're by no means decreasing the services that you provide. Is that true?
That is correct. We actually shortened those categories to have an intense focus on those. So those particular areas are all encompassed within those 7 now.
That's great. Thank you.
Certainly.
A question, when you talk about the action steps, when you look at reviewing the document and collaboration, what might that look like?
So when we're reviewing that within our learning and support services team, we have a variety of individuals that can help us to develop if there's specific action steps in any of those categories that might be needed. We can look at that through the lens of professional development, through our educational equity, through our curriculum, through data, et cetera. So those individuals will be with us to determine what are those extra steps that we need, what are those particular resources that we need, what are the action steps to move us along that continuum.
That's great. And that'd be collaborative between Rockwood and Special School District, not just one party.
Absolutely.
Right. Thank you.
So I'm thinking that this is to continuously improve the relationship between SSD and Rockwood, and thusly continue to improve and strengthen the services for all students in the district, specifically the students that have special services.
Correct.
I am honored to be on the governing council for Special School District, part of my board role, and myself and Randy. And it's an honor to continue to serve in that way.
I feel we have a very strong partnership. I look forward to continuing with that work and collaborating with our teams together.
Any other questions or comments? So the motion is to approve the Special School District Rockwood School District Partnership Agreement as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes. Thank you, everybody, for your patience and for your dedication this evening. Next, could I have a motion to approve the proclamation of November 15th through 19th, 2021 as the Rockwood School District's annual observance of the National Education Association's American Education Week?
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. We have Laura Baker joining us up here, and I believe you've got that one. Director Miller is going to read the proclamation. Would you like him to read that first?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Whereas public schools are the backbone of our democracy, providing young people with the tools they need to maintain our nation's precious values of freedom, civility, and equality, and whereas by equipping young Americans with both practical skills and broader intellectual abilities, schools give them hope for and access to a productive future. And whereas education employees, be they substitute educators, custodians, nurses, teachers, bus drivers, or librarians, work tirelessly to serve our children and communities with care and professionalism. And whereas schools encourage community, bringing together adults and children, educators and volunteers, business leaders, and elected officials in a common enterprise. Now, therefore, we, the members of the Rockwood School District Board of Education, do hereby proclaim November 15th through the 19th, 2021 as a 100th annual observance of the National Education Association's American Education Week. Thank you. So I wrote down my information here, and I was going to come and ask you for your support in recognizing, but since you have, or you will vote on it, I appreciate that. The goal of public education is to provide all students the opportunity to maximize their human potential, build their passions, and lead choice-filled lives, participate civically in a vibrant democracy, contribute meaningfully to the world and the economy, and understand that our diversity is a valuable asset. We want all our students to be healthy, happy, and successful. Recognition of American Education Week gives us the opportunity to honor the individuals working tirelessly to ensure that every student receives a quality education. So we appreciate your proclamation, and we want to thank our families for your support, trust, involvement, and participation, for our educational support professionals who are really the glue that hold our buildings together, making sure that our kids are mentally and physically well, making sure that they have all they need to be successful in our classrooms. We appreciate our teachers, our administrators, and all of those that are working in the buildings, again, with the commitment to do what is best for each child and focus on the individual needs of each. We appreciate our substitutes who
They pretty much love and care for our kids whenever and wherever we ask them to be. We thank you to the Board of Education for your commitment to serving our district and for your commitment as well. We appreciate our community for helping us provide some real-world experiences and for the resources to be able to really enrich our classroom experiences. Art, and anyone else I missed, it's kind of all inclusive to everyone that contributes to a successful, quality public education. Our students' success is dependent on how strongly we all come together to work together to support them. Students need to see that we are united and invested in our common goal of helping each of them realize that potential. And our students deserve our best so they can be their best. Thank you.
Good, thank you, well said. So the motion is to approve proclamation of November 15th through 19th, 2021 as the Rockwood School District's annual observance of the National Education Association's American Education Week. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes. And the next motion is, could I have a motion to approve the proclamation designating October 25th through 29th, 2021 as Red Ribbon Week in the Rockwood School District?
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second, and Dr. Kinder is going to read this proclamation.
Red Ribbon Week Proclamation, October 25th through 29th, 2021. Whereas Rockwood School District values the health and safety of all our students and citizens, and whereas substance abuse is particularly damaging to one of our most valuable resources, our children, and a contributing factor in the 3 leading causes of death for teenagers: accidents, homicides, and suicides. And whereas it is the goal of Red Ribbon Week and Rockwood School District to involve families, schools, businesses, churches, law enforcement agencies, and service organizations in all aspects of this campaign and establish an atmosphere that supports awareness, education, and ongoing initiatives to prevent illegal drug use. And whereas the Red Ribbon Week campaign theme promotes family and individual responsibilities for living healthy, drug-free lifestyles without illegal drugs or illegal use of legal drugs. And whereas National Red Ribbon Week will be celebrated October 25th through 29th across the country. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Rockwood School District does hereby proclaim October 25th through 29th, 2021 as Red Ribbon Week within the district, as well as district support in demonstrating unity around healthy, drug-free lifestyles.
Thank you, Dr. Kinder. And Lily, I apologize for not inviting you up sooner. Lily Schleiser is here for the next 2 proclamations, actually. Come on up.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for recognizing Community Partners in Prevention tonight and for declaring Red Ribbon Week. The need to bring awareness to drug and alcohol prevention through Red Ribbon Week is so important. Red Ribbon Week is vital to sharing the message and making sure prevention is top of mind for parents, teachers, and our community. Really, the work that we do at Community Partners in Prevention is so successful because of the way that this board recognizes our work and integrates us into the programs of this district. So I want to thank you so much for your support and all that you do. Next week for Red Ribbon Week, we will host screenings in high schools. We will host events and educational opportunities for students across the district. We will host our Parent Safety Night on Tuesday, October 26th. We will begin screening Addiction is Real's Don't Wait film for a month beginning next Thursday. We will be passing out Pocket Pals to high school students to help encourage taking good steps towards mental health and taking care of themselves. And we will distribute parent toolkits throughout the district. And we are also distributing 1,000 doTERRA bags to employees in the district to include employees in Red Ribbon Week this week. So schools across the district will have red ribbons, of course. We've provided those. decor and prizes and other items to raise awareness across the district. There will be spirit days, decoration, drug facts, trivia, games, and prizes. And students all across the district will be involved in Red Ribbon Week activities. Our coalition is very grateful for your support and for declaring this Red Ribbon Week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lily. So the motion is to approve the proclamation designating October 25th through 29th, 2021 as Red Ribbon Week in the Rockwood School District. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes. And the next proclamation, we will have you remain here for. Could I have a motion to approve the proclamation designating October 25th through 29th, 2021 as the 12th annual observance of the Rockwood School District Community Partners in Prevention Week? That's the motion.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. That's okay. Director Dunn is going to read this proclamation for us.
Proclamation for Community Partners in Prevention. Community Partners in Prevention provides leadership, education, and resources to prevent and address substance abuse among youth. Collaboration between the Coalition, Rockwood School District, and many community partners ensures success with community prevention programs protecting Rockwood students so they can thrive. Whereas by equipping youth to make healthy choices for their futures, and whereas by providing parents with information and support to guide their children in decision-making, enhancing their lives, and whereas by collaborating with community leaders to foster prevention efforts with a common goal of helping our young people remain drug and alcohol-free, and whereas October is National Substance Abuse Prevention Month. Now therefore, we, the Rockwood School District Board of Education, do hereby proclaim October 25th through the 29th, 2021, the 12th annual observance of Community Partners in Prevention Week. Signed this 21st day of October, 2021.
Thank you.
Thank you again for supporting Community Partners in Prevention by declaring Community Partners in Prevention Week. Again, as a community coalition, we are a model that is implemented across the country in communities like Rockwood. And our coalition is highly successful due to the support of the district and being implemented as a program within the schools. We have access to resources and individuals that we would not otherwise have. And it's a really advantageous position. We're really grateful for your support. We're really grateful to be here and to be a part of the community and to be a resource to our parents and our students, which is very important. We share the goal of all of our students reaching their potential. And of course, substance use does not fit into the picture for that. So this is very important to us and we really appreciate your support. Any questions for me?
How do you gauge the success of these two programs?
The success of these two programs primarily is gauged on the data that we collect. We collect the Missouri Student Survey data every 2 years and we track that data. We tend to come in below state averages on most substance use areas. We have a particular area of concern in prescription drug use, so that's an area that we focus on as a coalition. We've been recognized nationally for our efforts and watching those rates come down over the years throughout the course of our efforts. We also do listening sessions and we do community listening sessions and check in with folks in the community to track information and make sure we're collecting data. We work with local law enforcement and municipalities to collect data so we can actually track what's going on with the youth in our community.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? So the motion is to approve the proclamation designating October 25th through 29th, 2021 as the 12th annual observance of the Rockwood School District Community Partners in Prevention Week. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes. Next, could I have a motion that the Board of Education approve the final report of the challenge materials as submitted?
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second for discussion. I have Lynn Mediette.
Thank you. I was a member of the committee charged with the review of the following challenged materials. 8th grade critical literacy lessons from spring to 2021. Teacher materials or any lesson devised from the Teacher College Reading and Writing Project. And The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. The committee met via Zoom on September 28th, 2021 at 3 p.m. The committee included 4 parents, a school library media specialist, 2 middle school English language arts teachers, 2 middle school principals, and myself. The committee viewed the original parent concerns as well as the options offered to the committee members as to the question material. Option 1 would be retained without restriction. Option 2, retained with restrictions. And option 3, not retained. The committee discussed each of the materials at length, asked questions, and came to the following consensus for each of the challenged materials. 8th grade critical literacy lessons from spring 2021. The committee determined that this unit of study and the lessons within it are in the process of being rewritten. As such, they will be reviewed through stakeholders, through the Rockwood curriculum review process, which will allow for a broad range of teacher and parent voices. The committee recommends option 1, retained without restrictions. Second issue, teacher materials are any lessons devised from the teacher's college reading and writing project. The committee determined that the teacher's college reading and writing project materials should continue to be used as a resource. Thus, the committee recommends option 1, retained without restriction. Third, The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. The committee recommends that the book continues to be part of our library connection. In addition, the committee determined that the critical literacy unit of study and the lessons within it are in the process of being rewritten. As such, they will be reviewed by stakeholders through the Rockwood curriculum review process and will allow for a broad range of teacher and parent voices. To address individual concerns, the library specialists for the Rockwood School District middle schools have already placed YA young adult stickers on the books. The Hate U Give on the book, The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. Parents also have the opportunity to have school personnel place a notification on their child's Infinite Campus account as to the type of books the students should refrain from checking out. We will mark the book young adults so parents are aware of the content of the book. The committee recommends option 1, retained without restrictions. I would ask the board to approve the committee's recommendations.
Any questions or discussion?
Lynn, what do you mean by retained with restrictions? What kind of examples do you have for that?
I'm sorry, say that again? I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Retained with restrictions? Can you give me an example of what that means?
I think that would mean that the book could be used in a limited way, could be in certain circumstances, but not other circumstances. So for all 3 of these areas, they are retained without restrictions.
These are curriculum books or regular textbooks, is that right? Or are they library books also?
The Hate U Give is, at this point in time, it's a library book.
Okay. Thank you. One last question. Do you have as a possibility that the only way a student can check it out is with parent consent? Is that an option?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's what we're saying.
Otherwise, it's not available.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So, Lynn, for clarification, I believe the books that were targeted were because they were part of a lesson plan and now they've been removed from the lesson plan.
Yes.
Therefore, it's only going to be where
Right.
the child could check it out if parental approval, et cetera, or they meet the qualifications.
Right.
So that.
Any other questions?
Right.
So the motion is that the Board of Education approve the final report of the challenge materials as submitted. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That passes. Next, could I, this is information, I apologize. Dr. Willett is coming up to share some information with us about review of Regulation 6241.
Good evening. I'm here as an interim one, and that policy establishes the process for any resident or employee of the district to formally challenge learning resources program on the basis of appropriateness. The policy has not changed. The steps and the regulation have been updated. So here's what that means. The spirit of the policy and the process that you just saw is very much still in place. There are some things that we put in place for clarity and direction in those processes. So it outlines that process specifically to file a formal challenge materials form. That opportunity is still there. It establishes a more consistent, larger committee to review those formal challenges so that they can look at challenge to challenge and not just have a brand new group every time coming in. It clarifies the appropriate process based on the concern. So on September 17th, I presented to the board the curriculum review process. And a lot of those lesson plans and teacher resources go through that vetting process. And there's several opportunities there to give feedback. For parents specifically, we've got the parent RLC committee, but we also have a public hearing before every board meeting. We've always done that when we've brought a curriculum, where I sit with my team and parents have an opportunity to come in and ask questions. So that will still remain in place to ask questions about resources, those kinds of things before that ever goes to the board. And then what the changes to the regulation really address are the steps that take place to address those other materials, those articles, books, and videos that you saw here. So there are two separate avenues to go there, and we wanted to make sure that we gave clarity to where those materials went, because there was some confusion for the committee in all this, like where does this fall with the other processes that we have in place. So that's what those updates do. I encourage you to look at that and take a look at how that process is, but it is very much still in place and a possibility if there's a concern. Any questions?
Could you describe this larger committee that you're talking about? And I understand the reason for having a consistent, so that we have history and consistency.
Correct.
Describe what that committee would look like.
So there's more parents on this one. I think there's 4. Before it was 4 people total that were lay people, 2 had to be parents. We had 4 that were parents this last time, so we made that change. It also includes students at the high school level. If it were appropriate at a middle school level too, we might bring in students there too to get their thoughts on it. But at the high school level, we have the opportunity to bring in a couple of students and experts in the field. Yes.
Dr. Willett. This regulation 6241 pertains to curriculum and material, is that right?
Correct.
So it does not pertain to any student that comes to school and accesses something on their own iPhone, their own laptop?
Not
What about
necessarily.
a school provided computer?
Right. This is just for curriculum learning resources that were provided to a student.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Shelley, when you said there will be more parents, so are you, this time we had 4. Are you thinking there'll be more than 4 or?
It has 4 in this regulation. The old regulation actually had 2 parents and
You
2
said
lay
that.
people.
Right.
What we've done is added lay people and 4 parents so that there's more.
Where do parents come to meet you before board meetings? Do they come to the board meeting and meet with you, or where does that happen?
I've been here for 8 years and I haven't had anybody show up at a public hearing before the curriculum. So we're always in the building. There's a sign posted of where we are, and people are welcome to come and ask whatever questions. We have the documents there to share, and we're there to answer questions.
Can they just, so they can just come in and talk to you? They don't have to set up an appointment?
No, it's an hour before the board meeting starts and it's open.
Thank you.
I will say, having gone through this process recently, that we had very spirited discussion and a I felt a very healthy discussion. So I think including more parents is the right way to go.
Yes. Any other questions?
What is the process you go through, even though we haven't had it, when a parent comes up and talks to you about a particular material? What process do you go through then?
We always start that process with the teacher in the classroom because the teacher can provide that context to the parent as to why the material is being used. And then if it isn't resolved from there, it goes to the building principal. If it isn't resolved from there, then this process goes into place.
Thank you.
Lesson plans are still first approved by the building principal before the teacher uses it, right?
Not necessarily. Any other questions?
I think I'm going to ask you that.
However, could we clarify that lesson plans are in correlation to the standards and curriculum that's been set?
Correct. Yes, they use the curriculum guide to guide the lesson planning that they do.
Dr. Willett, let me ask you again. How many years you been in the district? How many years have you been in the district?
This is my 8th.
Did you start this when you came in?
No, this process was in place when I came in,
Did I hear
as was
you-
the public policy process. That's been there forever, that public forum.
Yeah, I want to clarify. Did I hear you say you've never had anybody come up and talk to you about that?
No,
Thank
I've
you.
never had anybody show up at a public
Thank you very
hearing
much.
before a board meeting. Yeah, we haven't done any curriculum revision in a year and a half since the pandemic's been going on. So it was prior to that all those, and it's posted with every board meeting, the same hearing is posted.
If I could interject, I've been in the district over 30 years and 13 years as a coordinator and never had parents show up at one of our posted curriculum nights.
Is that process to do this posted somewhere on the website?
This process, yes, it's in our policies and regulations.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Willett.
you.
And next, we have a transportation update. I'd like to invite Mike Heeman up, as well as Paul Northington. This is information only.
Good evening. I'll get it started this evening, then I'm going to turn it over to Mike Heeman, our Director of Transportation. But what I'd like to do first is really acknowledge our great transportation team that we have. That starts with our 100-plus bus drivers, our bus monitors, our mechanics, our routers, our dispatchers, and of course, our office staff. They do a great job every day getting our kids to and from school safely. I also want to acknowledge the fact that the decision the board made just over 5 years ago to bring in transportation from a contracted service and bring it in-house has proven beneficial in so many ways. And these individuals are now part of our Rockwood team and part of Rockwood staff. And we see those benefits each and every day, even 5 years later. And it's been a good decision. This evening, Mike's going to share with you some successes within the program, some challenges that we're facing, and some fun facts. It's a pleasure working with Mike. He and I are speaking on a regular basis each and every day. He's doing great work. And again, we've got a great transportation team. So I'm going to turn it over to Mike and let him share the news with you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. I wanted to thank the board, Dr. Ricker, the cabinet members, for your continued support with the transportation department here at Rockwood. Our first success, which I'd like to share with you, is we were awarded the Exemplary School Bus Maintenance Award from the state of Missouri. And this award is as a result of receiving 5 years in a row the Fleet Excellence for inspections from the Missouri State Highway Patrol. So and that is a score of 90% or better, but I will say this, we averaged 98.5%, which is almost 10% higher than the entire state. So I'm very, very proud of this. I remember when the very first year at the MAP meetings in Columbia, they were giving out the Fleet Excellence Award, which is the first time we ever had it. It was our first year, right? And somebody commented behind me, well, that's easy for them to do because they have all new buses. No, I'm sorry. That is not easy something to do, is to get that kind of score. But I'm just very proud of our team. So we received the Exemplary School Bus Maintenance Award. I want to also thank some of our true heroes for the district, and that is our 130 school bus drivers. Every day they come and they put their safest foot forward to transport our kids to and from school. And as Paul alluded to, we have an excellent office staff as well that puts things together in a very challenging times. We went through the COVID experience of last year and then this year. The transportation department had to be very flexible in changing a lot of things that we did with sanitation, the mask wearing, the seat, the charting as far as the seating charts go, so we can control our contact tracing and communicate to the schools. So we put a lot of things in place. We're very flexible. And to date, we have not had any student transfer COVID from student to student, student to driver, driver to student on any of our buses. I'm very proud of that. We received a new parking lot for our bus lot at Grover, which is fantastic. Our drivers now have wider spaces to park their buses so they can do it safer and more efficient. They can better perform their pre and post trips. They have safer walk paths with all new striping. It's just very excellent to really change the facility, and I know the drivers really appreciate it, so thank you. Cost management. I believe, I'm a firm believer that it's a good move for Rockwood to bring transportation in-house. We have very good control and very good controls in place that we only look out for one thing, and that's the safe transportation of all of our students. That's it. That's the only thing that matters. And that's what we do. Some challenges. The state nationwide driver shortage is a real thing. I put this out last June to our parents of the district. Surveys says that 83% of all school districts and private school bus companies are experiencing a dire need for drivers. It is costing them a lot of problems. I am very proud to say that with having 48 less drivers than we did at the start of last school year, we are running and delivering every day to school 88% of the students we used to drive to school with 41 less school bus routes. Wow. That's amazing, in my opinion. How did we do it? We had to consolidate the buses. There's two ways to make a bus pick up more kids, and that's the less miles driven and less stops to be made. So we went through and we systematically went through the entire district and revamped the entire district. We had to pull out of cul-de-sacs. We had to have kids walk a little further to their bus stops. This allowed our drivers to pick up more kids. And on the average, our drivers pick up 21 more students per morning shift and afternoon shift. And that was the difference maker to make this successful. All the students that we said we're transporting, we are transporting. And since the first day of school, I've been able to build in almost another 600 students and providing them with school bus transportation. And I didn't add no more routes. I don't have any drivers to add the routes with. Now, I will say this. We've had 3 applicants this past week because we've put in an additional driver bonus and referral bonus. And that's gotten me 3 referrals, and I've got 3 good applicants. So I'm looking forward to that. It's like gold, right? We're experiencing as a district some state funding shortages where we used to be funded like 75% of our transportation. It's down to between 23, 25% currently. That causes problems in itself, and it makes it even more important that we watch what we're doing. And I think we have very good controls with the leadership of Paul Northington. We have very great controls as far as our costs go. So we're looking out for the district. Bus refresh. This is really cool. We started a few years ago doing summer academy busing. Before, when they had summer academy, there was no busing offered. We started putting air conditioning buses into our system for our buses. And currently we have 37 buses. And after this summer, we plan on purchasing another 20 air-conditioned buses. We will then have 57 in the fleet, and that's enough buses to drive every student during summer academy in an air-conditioned bus in the hot months to school. And obviously, you know about how weather is in early August, and even, well, last week we had, 90? So it's a plus. I thank the district for recognizing the fact that air conditioning is important during these months, and our fleet is reflecting just that. We had fuel tanks put in ground at our bus lot, and as a result of that, we have underground diesel and underground unleaded fuel tanks, where we had to have wet fuel. Now, I don't know if anyone's familiar with wet fuel, and that's when a tanker truck comes to your lot and it fills up your buses, right? because we didn't have the ability to pump unleaded gas. Well, since we put our tanks in, we experienced a cost savings of 7 to 12 cents a gallon for having them pump it for us. So this year we'll have recoup at least $16,000 in fuel costs as a result of having the tanks. So as we keep going, the tanks will pay for themselves. Fun facts. I tipped off a couple of them with the 88% of the drivers that were, or the kids were picking up. We run currently 106 bus routes. That's regular ed school bus routes. We used to run 147. So that gives you an idea on how the driver shortage has affected us. Average driver transports 92 students last year, and this year the average driver is transporting 113. That's like putting a whole nother kindergarten class or first grade class of 21 kids behind the drivers. So it does make it a little bit more stressful for the drivers, but thank God that we got good drivers that know how to have student management, and they're doing just an excellent job. Another thing that kind of goes along with having less bus routes is you're going to drive less miles. We averaged 1.3 million miles last year, and this year I'm estimating about 937,000. So there'll be a cost savings of roughly a little over 50,500 gallons less used. So that's good for us as far as, economy and the money we're spending on fuel. Pre-COVID driver shortage, we transported 13,600 kids every morning and afternoon, and to date, we're transporting 12,009. That's 88%. Any questions?
Hey, Mike, I had several quick questions.
Yes, sir.
Like this is a fast game or something like that. You said, are we down 40 bus drivers from last year?
48.
48, okay. You had on the first slide something called including White Fleet. What is White Fleet?
Oh, I'm sorry. White Fleet are all the vehicles that are used by our maintenance, our facilities, our child nutrition.
Okay.
Those are the White Fleet because they're all painted white, right? But we are doing all the maintenance on those.
Right.
Saving the district a lot. Just an hourly wage is over $85 an hour savings.
Oh, the next one, if we were still under contract like we were 6 years ago, this problem with the number of bus drivers would still be the same and maybe worse. Is that a true statement?
That's a very true statement. Very, very true statement. We were contracted with First Student, and they're experiencing the same, if not more problems than what the rest of the districts are experiencing.
Yeah. You talked about incentives to get more drivers. You've employed some this year, but you're not done yet. You're still in possibility of doing some other incentives to get more bus drivers?
Yes, that is true. I'm part of focus groups that we're working together now on putting together out of the box ideas. We're really pushing the envelope and trying to come up with some things that are going to make not only to attract new employees, but to retain employees.
The next one, you said funding for transportation is $200 million short of what it used to be. Now, that's a state funding, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
How much does that figure for Rockwood, approximately?
I might have to refer to Paul for a direct answer.
Typically, right now, from state funding, we get about 1.5 million for state transportation at 25% level. If that level was at a fully funded, that number would be closer to 4.5 to 5 million.
Even with that, we would still be maybe in trouble with bus drivers unless we could pay them more. And there's no guarantee that'll get you the bus drivers. Is that right?
It will help. Yes, it would help.
You said air-conditioned buses. We had 20. We're getting 35 more?
Well, we've got 37.
37.
And we're going to be purchasing another 20 to put us at a total of 57.
Okay.
We've averaged 53 to 55 summer school routes, so that'll cover our summer school. It'll be great.
So all the other buses are non-air conditioned. Is that right?
That is true.
Okay. All my questions. Thanks, Mike.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mike.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your support.
And next, we have an update from the Communications Outreach and Public Engagement Committee. The directors on that committee are Lynn Midyett, Randy Miller, and Tammy Romberg. Take it away.
Thanks, Jamie. So on October 11th, the COPE committee, along with Dr. Ricker and Ms. LePac, met, and we discussed a series of topics. The first on the list was a continuation of the Board of Education meeting presentations. We didn't quite get that nailed out on the other meeting, so we kind of laid out a rough sketch of what we were looking for. We already have November laid out. On the 18th of November, yes, we're going to do an MTSS alternative education update. And then on the 17th of February, we're going to do an equity audit update. We had an update at the last board meeting, and we're going to actually get another update from them. March 17th, we're looking for an ESOL gifted update. April 7th, we're looking for a post-high school, including military and trades, kind of what our students are up to after they graduate. And then on May 5th, we're looking for Paul Ziegler to come in and do his update along with a curriculum update. And then finally, in June, we're looking at another date for the board work session, because we kind of feel like we need at least 2 of those a year. So that's kind of our rough sketch right now. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tammy to talk about board work session.
We decided on, Janet, give us the date again.
November 29th.
November 29th is for our next work session. And we're going to focus this time on our communications with the BO, with the Board of Education and the public, both internal and external communications, are focusing on our board governance and the role that we play, setting our goals and looking at Board of Education best practices. We're going to use MSBA support, Janet Tilley, who we've used before, to be our external mediator and guide us through the self-evaluation tool for our board. And we'll be looking at policy 0412, reviewing and the changes so that we're ready to take it back for a second reading at the December meeting. So we've got a lot on our plan for the work session.
And as Tammy indicated, one of the ideas is to do a board self-evaluation. Boards do this. We can see how we're doing as a board. We can put together some goals for improvements, keeping in the spirit of always continuously improving our work that we do. So that will be on the agenda as a possibility. And as she said, looking at communication with our patrons and how we can make that more effective and more collaborative. So that it was a very spirited discussion. And Randy's going to talk a little bit about
The town halls. Town hall meetings.
Town hall meetings,
Yep.
right?
So a few meetings back, one of the patrons suggested that we look at doing town hall meetings where the public can interact with the board, because right now we really can't do that at these meetings. So we kind of talked about what that would look like, talked about how we can develop like a topic-based situation, focused, it's structured, kind of guide the conversation, if you will, so that, we don't end up in just a heated blow up. We don't want that. Possible start dates for that were February into the spring of 2022. Right now, the board really needs to get the superintendent search done, so that's kind of why we put it off till February or spring. And that will also be able to include then, hopefully, our new superintendent in these discussions, or maybe have he or she maybe attend these town halls as well. So that's kind of our thinking on that.
Along with our work session, we talked about having our work session in June that Randy mentioned. And I suggested that we're looking at as the possible training of all of our board for suicide prevention and being focused on what our student needs are. So we're looking forward to that part of our board training.
And finally, we had a discussion in reference to Ed Plus. We, of course, have our legal update, legislative update, yes, from Ed Plus, but there are some other resources that Ed Plus can offer. And how would we collaborate with the other districts in the region to share resources and practices? And that, I think, was it.
That was it, yeah. So
Any
we need to
questions
talk
from the
about
board
another
members?
meeting probably in a few months, I guess.
Any questions from the board members about what we have planned?
No? You got nothing, Keith?
Not on this, I have something else.
Okay.
All right, thank you guys for your work on all of that. We appreciate your meeting and your update. Next, we have the proposed agenda for the November 18th, 2021 Board of Education meeting. Any comments regarding this agenda? Will be our only November meeting. All right, then we have future agenda presentations and events to attend. There is the MSBA conference next week that I know many people will be attending in Kansas City. Any other things, you can check the Google Calendar for any updates that will be coming in. All right, with that, we will adjourn the meeting.
Oh.